Hey everyone, we are getting into the stage of our first project where I'm going to ask you to begin peer reviewing each other's work. And so I wanted to add a short video that supplements or complements your weekly reading on peer reviews, just to walk through what that looks like as you begin that process. So I'm in the Open Oregon online textbook chapter on giving and receiving feedback. This is also often referred to as peer reviews or peer feedback. And this is something we do in many, if not all, of our communication skills courses because it is an essential part of the writing process. We begin kind of individually working on our own, thinking of ideas, putting ideas to paper or screen, and continuing to add to those ideas. And then we often seek outside feedback. And the reason we do that is because other people who are not as invested in the topic or the project as we are can see gaps in our writing that we might not be able to see. And so if I ever have a major writing piece that I need to submit, I always have someone else look it over for me. If I have an email that I need to send that deals with some, sensitive topics, I have other people read it to make sure that my tone sounds okay, that I'm conveying my ideas clearly. It's just a really great way to get extra eyes on your paper and for you to start seeing maybe things that your peers are doing that you admire and would like to try yourself, or for you to start seeing areas where even, you're shining, that you do a really good job of introducing your topic, and you can kind of start to compare and contrast. This is not to pit you against one another. It's just a way for you to get an extra layer of review before you finalize your project. Now, peer reviewing can feel really intimidating. We often are afraid of being judged. And I know that in the past, I've had some anxiety about sharing my work because we're not sure maybe if we did it right, if we're as good as everybody else, if people are going to understand it, because our thoughts are essentially on the page, and having that reviewed can feel really intimidating. But I learned in both college and on the job that having somebody else look at my work, especially my writing, saved my butt in a lot of instances when I would have maybe said something that was a little hot-headed or just wasn't completely understandable. I was able to have somebody go, this is a little confusing, or you sound a little crabby here. Maybe you could soften it this way. So being able to have somebody give you that feedback is really valuable. As you think about giving that feedback, number one rule is be kind. Write or say things that you would want to have said or written to you. This is not to say that you just say everything's perfect, looks good, I wouldn't change a thing, because oftentimes in our drafting stage, there are things that we can change to improve upon. But it is being honest, but being honest in a way that is respectful and kind. So instead of saying your instructions are too long and they're kind of boring, you could say, well, I feel like it would really help the reader if you chunked up the sections and used some subheadings, and maybe even added a little bit of levity, a little bit of lightness to the writing, because right now it reads pretty dryly. So being able to say things in a way, it's a great practice for being on the job, especially if you're ever in charge of managing people, being able to say things that are constructive but helpful in growth. Think about the major things first. So sometimes the first inclination of peer reviewers is to correct all the comma errors or to correct all the capitalization. And that should be our lower level concern, because when we're drafting, it's okay to have those errors. We might just have written as things came to us and not really spent a lot of time finalizing or proofreading our work. So don't worry so much about grammar mechanics at first. Look more at content. Is the content there on the page? Does it flow well? Does it make sense? Is it easily understandable? Does it seem to follow the right order? And again, use things like, I feel like this is a really good introduction. I understand what you want me to do, but by the time we get to your conclusion or your ending, I'm not sure where we're going. And be specific. When you like something, say, I really like that you have use these action verbs up front. You've kept everything really consistent. However, it seems like things kind of shift verb tones towards the end of the piece, and that got a bit confusing to me. It's not your job to fix the person's work. It's not your job to make corrections for them. It's your job to read it, review it, ask questions if that seems necessary to clarify things, and then to offer your own experience of reading those instructions. You should also keep in mind that you all have your own unique voice. You all have your own unique way of approaching an assignment and approaching a topic. And the topics that you choose will also indicate, your interests, your values, your beliefs, things you like to do. And that might not be something that the reader necessarily shares with you. So I don't know a ton about sports. I'm not a big sporty person. But if somebody's going to write instructions on how to shoot a free throw, that's a hard word to say, free throw. I've done it, but it's been a long time and I would need a refresher. And there might be some terms that you would be using that I wouldn't be familiar with. Or if you're talking about coding, I don't code, I know a little bit of HTML, but you'd have to spend some time explaining things. So again, always keeping in mind who's the writing for, does the reader know as much as you do, the author, and to be able to just kind of bridge those gaps. So hopefully that helps. It is your decision as the writer of the original piece, whether you take your peer reviewer's feedback into account or not. Sometimes you might find that if you're in a group of 3 or more, you have one person who says, this is really good, and somebody else says, I don't understand this. So that's conflicting information. And as the author, you get to decide whether you take it or leave it. So that's also the kind of nice thing about peer reviews. And I will try to encourage you to change up who's peer reviewing whom, so you get an idea of what everybody in the class is working on and doing, and get exposed to different styles. It takes some time to get good at peer reviewing, and it takes some overcoming that anxiety, but I think you'll get there. I think you'll find it valuable. And if you have any questions or concerns, please let me know. And happy peer reviewing. Take care, everybody.